And welcome back. Our first guest is a widely respected photojournalist and former faculty member at the esteemed Poynter Institute here in the Tampa Bay area, and was named St. Petersburg's first community intervention and juvenile outreach director as a direct result of his leadership at Men in the Making, now Men and Women in the Making, which pairs kids with role models and is changing young people's lives and our community. Let's take a look.
So in 3 cities, New York, in Pontiac, Michigan, and here in St. Petersburg, we've had the privilege of presenting an academic enrichment program that focuses on young people in economic need or in academic stress, or thirdly, who are in need of parental guidance. We're not replacing parents, but we're providing role modeling to our young people.
It is an honor to welcome the Reverend himself, Kerry Irby, everybody. Kerry Irby! Look at this. This is so great to have you. What an honor.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And you wore your official.
I'm working today.
You are.
What do you expect?
Tell us about this job. I mean, aside from you being the Reverend at the Bethel Church, right? And that's 130 years old.
That's right.
Right?
130 years.
So you've got that job and your flock, as it were. Right, and now you have this job. You've had this now for about how long? 10 years?
8
almost?
years.
8 years.
8 years.
Right.
8 years.
So tell us about this job, the intervention director.
So community intervention director role was a mayoral appointment from our former mayor Rick Kreisman to deal with the violent period that we were dealing with in 2015 and 2016 with the 7 murders of young men of color in the city of St. Petersburg. And what we set out to do was to build pathways to success and to offer intervention and support for those families, particularly with children, what I like to refer to as vulnerable children, children that are on single parent homes.
Sure.
They are having difficulty in school. They've had some involvement with the juvenile justice system, some touch there that we want not to replicate and continue, and children that are just really misguided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so when you started Men in the Making, and you and I met at the 100 Good Men organization gathering, mm-hmm. and Men in the Making actually won the donation prize, the funding that evening. It's now become Women in the Making too, so it's Men and Women in the Making. Same thing, trying to find these 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, right?
Truth is, Men and Women in the Making is a 40-year ministry, my wife and I. We started this program the year we got married in Pontiac, Michigan, Men and Women in the Making. And when we moved to St. Petersburg, we did it in Men and Women in the Making in Pontiac, Michigan, then on Long Island.
Okay.
As you know,
sure,
when we were living in Setauket and members of a small church that were mostly Native Americans and African Americans, former potato farmers, we saw the dynamic that young people needed direction. They needed enrichment because they were locked into communities and hadn't been exposed, hadn't been encouraged and inspired to look beyond their local environments.
And it is a pivotal juncture in the development of a human being.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know from my own experience as a single parent child in Washington, D.C., with a huge female influence, not that that was a terribly negative thing, but the reality is that you need to have input and inspiration and modeling of what it means to be a man in America.
The second part of our conversation with Reverend Kerry Irby is just ahead after this short break. And now here's part 2 of our conversation with St. Petersburg's recently appointed Faith and Community Justice Liaison and leader of Men in the Making, Reverend Kerry Irby.
Now, so you went to college in Boston.
Boston University.
And then you went to Long Island and worked for one of the biggest newspapers in the world. Newsday, for everybody that doesn't know out there, is on Long Island. And then you think of New York, you think of the New York Times, you think of the Daily News, the New York Post. But Newsday reaches 1 million people every week, has 19 Pulitzer Prizes and counting. you went to work there as a young man.
Went there as a staff photographer in 1988. After working in Pontiac, Michigan, and Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, working my way up in the minor leagues of journalism back in those days.
The Newsday is the majors.
Yeah.
It's the pros.
Yeah, it was Times Mirrors. It was the LA Times to the east.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a fantastic experience.
And at what age, when you were young, did you decide that you wanted to be a photojournalist? And do you remember your first camera?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My first camera was a Minolta XL. I was fortunate in Washington, D.C. that there was a journalism intervention program called the Lemuel Penn Career Center, and it was focused on helping public school students explore potential careers in journalism, from broadcast, print, to had a printing facility, had a press in the building.
Sure.
And I was interested in photography. I'd always been interested in photography, growing up on the Washington Post and the Washington Star. And, those publications were in my household on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so from the Newsday, you go to the Poynter Institute, which is right here in the Tampa Bay area, and that is the upper echelon of journalism.
It was a mecca of journalism. People came from around, still do, come from around the world to participate in journalism training and in leadership and ethical decision making. And now it's known for its multimedia and digital storytelling platforms.
So, for all intents and purposes, your career has set you up to be successful in what you're doing right now. So I read this quote from an article that you had been in, and it said, "The dropout to prison pipeline." What is the dropout to prison pipeline?
Yeah, we need to know more, and we need to study and intentionally examine the dropout, what's called the pipeline. And the pipeline really focuses on the fact that in middle school, young black and brown boys, BIPOC boys, are immersed in this concept that it's no longer to be smart. And we know that there's a direct pathway to drop out into prison, because when you're not involved in positive outcomes and enterprises, it leads you to negativity.
Sure.
And so that was something that in 2011, while I was at Poynter, when we had a police officer, Dave Crawford, murdered by Nicholas Lindsay, a young man in this community who was misguided and had a gun, in this ill-fated experience, we decided at the school that we were going to do something to build relationships and create a safe place where law enforcement and inner city kids could make positive relationships during times of calm. Which is something that I had always, that comes out of my journalism life experience, where I used to teach photographers and reporters how to build relationships in communities that were undercovered.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now we're going to shift gears here. Sir, are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Here we go. Now, you have 5 questions. You have 60 seconds to answer. There are no right or wrong answers, or
There may be.
are there? Yes. All right, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Number 1, you lived and worked on Long Island for many years and then moved here. Who's your favorite baseball team?
The Rays.
Good answer. I was looking for the Mets, but it's fine. It's my cross to bear.
I covered the Rays and the Yankees, but
There you go. Okay, now, number 2, you raised 4 daughters. Can you braid hair?
I cannot.
Okay. Number 3, do your daughters think
I can make bush. I made bush balls.
Okay.
That was.
Oh,
my
okay, yeah.
alternative.
Number 3, do your daughters think you are funny?
Some do.
Some
do. It's 4 of them. You know,
So-
I got a 50-50 split.
50
so I'm in
shot.
the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, number 4, what is a job that you have not done that you think you would enjoy, given that you've had so many different esteemed positions over your career?
You know, I wouldn't trade anything for the journey. I'm open to wherever the Lord leads me in service.
Okay. And then last but not least, number 5, for the win, does St. Pete and the Tampa Bay area have a bright future?
I think absolutely it does. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
is the
And
answer.
on that note, you have some breaking news, but can't share any details, correct?
Yeah. I will not be defined by the job that I do.
Okay.
I'm open to opportunities. I'm fortunate to work for an administration. Our mayor has been very supportive of the things that I'm doing, and he's asked me to take on a new challenge.
Okay. And we
so
will
it's
stay
exciting.
tuned to find out what that is.
Bring me back, and we'll
But
talk about that.
I agree with you. It's not the job, it's the man and his character.
It's the person.
And it's been an honor to have you here.
It's been a delight.
Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Reverend Kenny Irby, everybody, make some noise. All right, so stick around. More Tampa Bay Tonight is coming right up.
Yes. So the new role.
Wait, hold on a second. Let me get my phone out.